Story 1. The Christmas Eve Knock, Ohio, United States, 1945. The Miller house glowed like a postcard. White lights wrapped the porch railing. A small pine wreath hung on the door, tilted slightly to the left. Inside, the smell of roast chicken and cinnamon filled the air. It was 11:54 p.m. on Christmas Eve. The war had ended 6 months earlier, and for the first time in years, the family felt safe. Harold Miller sat in his chair, shoes off, tie loosened. His wife Eleanor folded wrapping paper at the dining table. Their children, Thomas, 11, and Lily, 7, were fighting sleep on the carpet near the tree. The radio played softly. Outside, snow fell without wind. Then, knock, knock, sharp, controlled, not rushed. Everyone froze. Harold looked at the clock. 11:58 p.m. Who would be out this late? Eleanor asked. Another knock. This time louder. Harold stood. I'll get it. Lily grabbed his pant leg. Daddy, Santa already came, right? Harold smiled. Of course he did. He walked to the door and opened it. He wore a dark coat dusted with snow, a hat pulled low, a badge glinting faintly under the porch light. Evening, the man said. Police. His voice was calm, almost apologetic. There's been an accident down the road. Need to ask a few questions. Harold hesitated just a second, but it was Christmas Eve, and he was a policeman. Of course, Harold said, stepping aside. That moment, that step back, was the last decision he would ever make. The man entered. He removed his hat and pulled out a gun. At 12:06 a.m., a neighbor later reported hearing something strange. Not screams, not gunshots, just a heavy thud, followed by silence. Christmas bells rang from a nearby church. Snow continued to fall. No one called the police. Why would they? Nothing bad happens on Christmas. Lily was the first to die. She ran straight toward the Christmas tree, toward the place she felt safest. She crawled under the lowest branches, pulling tinsel over her head, clutching a doll wrapped in red paper. She heard her mother scream once, then stop. Thomas tried to fight. He was strong for his age, stronger than the man expected. That's why it took longer. Harold never made it past the hallway. At 12:19 a.m., the killer sat at the dining table. He ate a roll. He wiped his hands. Then he stood and walked back toward the living room. He bent down and looked under the tree. Lily stared back at him, eyes wide, silent, frozen. They looked at each other for 7 seconds. Then, he stood up and left. The bodies were found Christmas morning. Snow untouched, door unlocked, no signs of forced entry. Police reports described the crime scene as unnaturally calm. No ransacking, no stolen items. Food still warm. And under the tree, a child alive. Lily survived, but she never spoke again. Not to doctors, not to family, not even when she grew up. She was institutionalized at 14. She died at 39. Her final medical note read, "Patient still believes Christmas Eve is happening." The badge, it was fake, not stolen, handmade, which meant the man didn't steal authority. He created it, and he was never found. Every Christmas Eve, the Miller house remains empty. Locals say the lights still turn on sometimes, and if you pass by just before midnight, some swear they hear a knock. Story 2. Santa wasn't the one on the roof. Finland, 1987. In Finland, Christmas is quieter. No shouting, No chaos. Just candlelight, warm food, and snow so deep it absorbs sound. In the village of Kitila, Christmas Eve meant one thing above all else. Santa always came in person. Not the mall kind. Not the fake kind. A real man, chosen each year. Dressed in red, rang bells, climbed roofs, and entered homes to give gifts to children who waited in silence, hands folded, eyes wide. On December 24th, 1987, everyone heard Santa. But no one saw him. The Korhonen family lived at the edge of the village. Wooden house. White trim. Single chimney. Inside were Marcus, 42, Ano, 38, and their two children, Alina, 9, and Oskari, 6. At 7:41 p.m., Oskari gasped, "Papa, he's here." They all listened. Thump, thump, footsteps. Slow, heavy, on the roof. Ano smiled. "Santa's making sure we're sleeping." But Marcus frowned. The steps didn't sound playful. They sounded deliberate. At 7:44 p.m., a scream echoed from the neighboring house. Just one. Cut off abruptly. Marcus stood up. Before he reached the door, thud. Something hit the side of the house. Not snow. Not ice. Ano screamed. Blood began to drip down the window. From above. When police arrived at 8:19 p.m., the village was silent. Too silent. House number 1, empty. House number 2, destroyed inside. House number 3, survivors, but traumatized. And between the houses, a Santa Claus suit lay crumpled in the snow. Red turned dark. The beard soaked stiff. Inside the suit, no body, just blood. A lot of it. Investigators found something that made no sense. Footprints led to each house, onto roofs, across chimneys, down walls. But none, not a single one, led away. The snow was fresh, untouched, as if Santa had arrived, and vanished. Alina didn't speak for 3 days. When she finally did, she told police something they never included in the official report. She said Santa wasn't smiling. She said his eyes were wrong. They were looking for something, she whispered. Not gifts. She said he looked at her father first, then laughed, then jumped. 2 weeks later, hunters found a body 3 kilometers away. Frozen. Broken bones. No clothes. Dental records matched the man chosen to play Santa that year. Cause of death: blunt force trauma. Time of death: before the attacks. Which meant whoever wore the suit was not Santa. The suit found in the village didn't belong to the Santa volunteer. Different stitching. Different fabric. Older. Much older. Later analysis suggested the suit was at least 40 years old. No record of who owned it. No fingerprints. No explanation. After that year, the village canceled the Santa tradition forever. Children were told Santa preferred letters now. But some nights, when snow is deep and the air is still, parents say they hear footsteps on the roof. And no one smiles anymore. But Santa isn't always the one who comes. Sometimes, it's the promise of gifts that hide something worse. Something waiting for children who have never had anything at all. Story 3. The Orphanage That Canceled Christmas, Romania, 1993. For the children of Kalinesti Orphanage, Christmas was not a holiday. It was just another cold day. No decorations. No gifts. No songs. Most of the children didn't even know what Christmas was supposed to feel like. Until December 1993. That was the year volunteers arrived. They came in vans filled with boxes, toys, blankets, Sweets wrapped in shiny paper the children had never touched before. For the first time in the orphanage's history, someone said the words out loud. This year, Santa is coming. Some children laughed. Some cried. Some didn't believe it at all. The orphanage was an old concrete structure on the edge of a forest. Cracked walls, long hallways, windows that never fully closed. At night, the wind whistled through the corridors like breathing. Staff members warned volunteers not to stay late. Children imagine things, one caretaker said. They hear the forest. No one listened. On December 24th, the children were fed early. They were told to go to bed. Gifts would come in the morning. That night, something changed. Children later described the air as heavy, as if the building was listening. At approximately 11:30 p.m., multiple children woke up. They heard footsteps. Slow, dragging, not running, not playful, moving from room to room. One child whispered, "Santa." No answer. The footsteps stopped outside the girls' dormitory. The door opened. Several children independently described the same figure. A tall man, wearing red, but not the bright red from pictures. This red was dark, worn, almost brown. His beard wasn't white. It was gray, patchy. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He pointed. The next morning, volunteers arrived at 9:12 a.m. The front gate was open. The building was silent. No staff, no guards, no caretakers. The children were sitting on their beds, awake, waiting. There were no bodies, but there were signs of violence. Blood in staff offices, broken furniture, handprints on walls, too large to belong to children. And in the main hallway, a sack, empty. Police interviews were halted after 1 hour. Every child, regardless of age, said the same thing. They said Santa came. They said Santa took people. They said Santa said only one sentence. The bad ones don't get gifts. All staff members were officially listed as missing. No suspects. No arrests. The orphanage was shut down permanently. Children were relocated. Psychological reports noted a recurring behavior. Every December, the children refused gifts. They refused decorations. And they repeated the same phrase. Christmas is canceled. The building still stands. Locals say lights sometimes turn on in December, but no one goes near it, because once a year, something still comes to check who's been good. The next story is different, because this time, we know who Santa was. We know his name, and we know exactly what he brought with him. Story 4. The Santa Who Burned the Party, California, 2008. The party was already loud when he arrived. Laughter, music, children tearing wrapping paper on the floor. It was Christmas Eve in Covina, California, a quiet, middle-class neighborhood where everyone knew each other. At 11:30 p.m., the doorbell rang. Someone shouted, "Santa's here." No one hesitated. Why would they? He was dressed perfectly. Red suit, white beard, black boots, even the glasses. He carried a large wrapped gift. Smiling. As soon as the door opened, he raised a gun. The room exploded into chaos. People screamed. Children ran. Glass shattered. The man fired immediately. Not randomly. Deliberately. He knew exactly where to aim. Then he dropped the gun and activated the flamethrower. The Santa suit ignited instantly. Flames spread across wrapping paper, curtains, the tree. The house became an oven. Survivors later said the heat was so intense it felt like the air was burning their lungs. Children hid under furniture. Adults tried to pull them out. Some didn't make it. One boy survived by crawling under a pile of torn gift wrap. Plastic melted above him. He stayed silent. He smelled burning hair. He later told police, "I thought Santa was sending us to hell." By the time firefighters arrived, the house was fully engulfed. 9 people were dead. 3 more died later from injuries. The man in the Santa suit had escaped. 4 hours. Police identified the Santa as Bruce Pardo, an engineer, recently divorced. He had modified the Santa suit himself. Hidden weapon holsters, a homemade flamethrower, hundreds of rounds of ammunition. Christmas was not the disguise. It was the message. The next morning, Pardo's body was found in his brother's house, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The Santa suit was partially melted onto his skin. After that night, many families in Covina stopped answering doors on Christmas Eve. Some children stopped believing in Santa. Others started fearing him. Because sometimes, the monster doesn't hide in the dark. Sometimes he knocks. The final story is the quietest. No fire. No screams. No witnesses. Just a Christmas card. And a town that slowly disappeared. Story 5. The Christmas card that killed a town, England, 1929. The village of Hollowford does not appear on most modern maps. Not because it was destroyed by war. Not because of a disaster. It simply faded. In 1929, Hollowford was a peaceful English village with fewer than 300 residents. Everyone knew everyone. And every Christmas, without fail, they exchanged cards. Handwritten. Personal. Left on doorsteps or slid through mail slots with care. Until the winter one card arrived everywhere. It was simple. No return address. No signature. Just a drawing on the front. A Christmas tree. But the tree had no ornaments. No star. Only empty branches. Inside, the message was identical in every card. May you receive what you deserve this Christmas. Some villagers laughed. Some were unsettled. No one threw it away. On December 27th, Mrs. Eleanor Wright, age 61, was found dead in her bed. Cause: heart failure. Doctors said it was natural. Then, in January, a man slipped on ice and broke his neck. February, a child died of sudden illness. March, a farmer disappeared into the river. All ordinary explanations. All unrelated. Except one detail. Every single victim had received the card. By the end of the year, 9 people were dead. The following year, 14 more. No violence. No poison. No signs of foul play. Just misfortune. Relentless. Unavoidable. By 1934, Hollowford was nearly empty. One man remained. Arthur Bell, the village postman. He had delivered every card, and he had kept one for himself. He never opened it. Neighbors begged him to leave. He refused. On Christmas Eve, 1935, Arthur finally opened the card. Inside, the same message. He burned it in the fireplace. The next morning, Arthur Bell was gone. The house unlocked. Fireplace cold. No body. No note. Hollowford was abandoned within 2 years. No official investigation was ever completed. But historians later discovered something disturbing. The card's paper stock did not exist in England in 1929. The ink composition did not match any known printer, and no similar card was ever found again. Some locals believe the village wasn't cursed. They believe it was judged. And Christmas was simply the deadline. Christmas is a season of trust, of open doors, of believing in kindness without question. That's why it's dangerous. Because monsters don't come when we're afraid. They come when we feel safe. They wear uniforms. They wear smiles. They wear red suits. And they knock. So if you hear footsteps on your roof tonight, if someone rings your bell at midnight, if a card arrives with no name, ask yourself one thing. Would you open the door? These stories were buried for a reason. If you want the ones even darker, you know what to do.